Before we get going today, just want to quickly tell you about my morning show, Morning Blues, which I'm going to be moving to a live show. I've pre-recorded it so far this year, but I'm going to start live streaming on the brilliant platform Big Up. You may have seen me on this platform before. It used to be Tifo, but now it's Big Up, and I'm going to be doing live streams on there, especially the morning show, Morning Blues, from 8 a.m. UK time. It will eventually be on the YouTube channel and my podcast feed as well, but if you want to join me live, interact, we'll react to the morning news, we'll have a coffee or a beverage of your choice, and we can discuss the latest Chelsea and football news. So just want to say that, link in the description box below for Big Up, where you can follow Son of Chelsea and follow all the live streams I do on there. So just wanted to update you on that, and let's get on with the show. Chelsea fans are revolting against the club's sporting directors. Why is it? How did we get here? And why I think it's about time. I'm Daniel Childs. If you're new around here, welcome to Son of Chelsea. I produce regular content around Chelsea Football Club. Please do like, subscribe if you want to see the latest content. But today's news show, I wanted to break down the Trevoh Chalobah returning to Chelsea. That's the main story in recent days, especially since the Bournemouth game. But it was very, very revealing and a little bit surprising, but based on where I've sat for the last 5-6 months, not entirely, the reaction to Chalobah's confirmation of being recalled very much sparked a wide and general revolt and just condemnation of the club's sporting directors, and that has continued into today. And I think it's very notable that even people who maybe have been supportive of the sporting directors are going as far to say they want to see them sacked from the club. And I think this incident on its own, I think, says so much about why people have come to that conclusion. But then also what's gone wrong, I think, at Chelsea, and what we hope to prevent in the future, and why it kind of reflects more of the issues within the club. I guess question of the day for you in the comments is, are you as kind of adamant that the sporting directors are the biggest problem? Because I personally have come to that conclusion. We've spoken about it a lot on the show, that you have to look at the people who've constructed the squad. That's a general point, but on this specific issue, I think it's a lot more than that, because it's not just you signed a bad player. Every football club in the world has signed a bad player, or signed a player they wish they hadn't, or made a sale or an acquisition or a decision that they regret in time. I think it's the way they've acted around someone like Trevoh Chalobah. And I think Marwa here, who I've had on the show before, great guy, he said, Trevoh Chalobah's Chelsea story is one of pure resilience. Anytime he's been overlooked or shown the door, he has proved why that was the wrong decision. From Tuchel times to now under Maresca, welcome back, mate. And Joe Tweed's another great guy. Chelsea ending up with a back three of Josh Achimpong, Trevoh Chalobah and Levi Colwell after spending a fortune on defenders is very on brand for the Bluco and Stewart era. So Liam Toomey wrote a piece for The Athletic, another guest I've had on the show before, over what Chalobah's return means for Chelsea and for how long. According to sources, apparently, who spoke anonymously to The Athletic to protect relationships, Chalobah spoke to Chelsea's co-sporting directors, Winstanley and Stewart, and separately to Maresca before it was confirmed that his parent club were recalling him. All three offered him assurances that he would have a meaningful first-team role to play at Chelsea for the rest of this season. Chelsea's decision to recall him to the squad only 5 months later has been perceived by many outsiders as a tacit admission of an embarrassing error of squad planning by Winstanley and Stewart, but that is not the way it is being perceived within the club's hierarchy. So this really is the position internally. And it is that Chelsea believed that loaning out Chalobah in the summer was the right decision then, and recalling him early is the right decision now, even if it invites criticism. In his absence, Achimpong has also been persuaded to sign a long-term contract following a rather messy process and earned real Premier League minutes playing alongside Colwell. So then we get into the whole judgment of this situation. I may put it up in the cards, but I don't like saying I told you so, but the Trevoh Chalobah one is an I told you so. I spoke passionately in the summer about how we were handling so many areas of the squad, but this was one of the areas of the squad I adamantly said, from a footballing point of view, we were creating a problem and we were creating a rod for our own back that we're probably going to have to pay for later. And that has been, unfortunately, the way it has borne out over the course of this season. Not like literally 5 months later, we banished Trev. We put more assurance into Axel Disasi, who's likely now leaving the club, and we bought in Tosin Adarabioyo. And Fofana and Cole have played the majority of minutes, but obviously that has been a problem because Fofana got injured, he's got a long-term injury now, and the backups simply aren't good enough. When Trevoh Chalobah, when asked to play for Chelsea, has been deemed and has proven, I think, to be not the greatest defender in the world, but a trusted, reliable, and at times quite a brilliant defender, I think, based on the circumstances. I think he is an underrated footballer. I'm biased in that, but I think at most, and as more objectively, I think you can say he's been an effective player for Chelsea, an effective squad player. So there's on that. But also just, there's no getting around the embarrassment and the way, from a human point of view, these sporting directors treated Trevoh Chalobah. And this is where the backlash really begins, because Cy Phillips here, in just 6 months, Chalobah has adapted to Enzo Maresca's football whilst not playing for Maresca at a different club to Enzo Maresca. What a magician. Clueless SDs that need to go, clueless owners who hired them, and still keeping them in their job. Embarrassing. The sporting directors is from Rob Prattley. Sporting directors have to go with Trevoh Chalobah being recalled. Alex Goldberg, one of the saddest things about this Chalobah situation is not only did they banish him from the plane for the US tour, but they also gave Joao Felix his number 14 while he literally was still here before he even went to Palace. Trev wears the number 14 in honour of his mum who passed away. And Carefree Youth, I've got to give credit to Carefree Youth, great mate and someone who has obviously covered the academy for a long period of time, but especially the career of Trevoh Chalobah. Was the first one to basically rubbish the story that there was no recall clause, because it's easy to forget early in this month club sources were trying to brief that there was no recall clause. How quickly that turned around. He said, I gave you my thoughts and told you all what the red flags I have seen in the summer. I don't need to say it again. Glad some are waking up to what's going on. Stop thinking the club does everything perfect and anyone that can see the mistakes is a bad fan. We aren't going the right way, just giving people free passes to make mistakes over and over. That's how you end up like Man United. And I think I want to pause on that point because it's so true, and it has been so infuriating over the past few months on social media, the way that has been used to try and silence debate. It's failed because I'm a firm believer that gaslighting as a strategy always fails, because gaslighting and people who gaslights, their biggest enemy is reality. And it's very hard, especially as reality will win that contest, I think, 10 times out of 10. And that is what has happened here with Trevoh Chalobah and the way the situation has been exposed. But particularly anytime anyone criticises the club they love and support and put so much energy, effort and time into, the instant accusation is you're not a real fan, rather than actually addressing the argument. And this is why I think it's blown up worse than it could have, actually, because I think a lot of people have grown frustrated. And the way they treated Trevoh Chalobah was a disgrace, and I said as much at the time. It frustrates me a little bit that it's taken 5 months for everyone to turn around and realise what it was, but I said it when he was barred from first team facilities. All of this was abysmal, and it's not just about an individual player. I think it's what you are as a club. If you are willing to treat your own players like that, particularly homegrown players, who in every club in world football has a special place, especially for supporters and the club, they've grown up, they've grown from a young kid to an adult playing at the club, and that's the way they're treated. It reflects what kind of culture or bad culture you're setting. And the thing I'd say, if you're not Trevoh Chalobah's biggest fan and you don't really care about him as a player, what I'd say is, if you're okay with the treatment for him, then don't come crying later if they start treating a player you actually like in that manner. Because turning a blind eye to it and not having those principles and not upholding and actually challenging that is why we get to this place, and why I think in many ways the sporting directors have completely failed. Because I spoke in my Bournemouth review, if you talk about their job of actually creating a better squad, they've had 4 transfer windows. They have failed to create a serious squad. There are still major holes across the team. But this goes beyond that. It's the way they've conducted themselves behind the scenes. It's the way they've treated players. It's the way they've excluded players, have tried to brief against their own players during the summer and bar them from first team facilities. These are not the acts that had to be made. This is not just selling a player. This is going out of your way to make them feel unwanted. And the embarrassing thing is they've had to come with their tail between their legs 6 months later to try and beg that player to return, to bail them out of their own failings as they try and offload Axel Disasi. We can't get around the farcical nature of what happened yesterday. So early yesterday morning, it comes out that Trevoh Chalobah is being recalled by Chelsea. The club doesn't officially announce it till actually last night. It actually took a while. Palace announced it first in the evening. But within like an hour, something we've seen, and there's been a Clear Lake trademark so far. Not trophies, but briefings. We are Briefings FC and Counter Briefings FC. Suddenly, it seemed like a lot of media outlets who cover Chelsea within a matter of minutes suddenly were briefing and reporting that someone within Chelsea's hierarchy, whether it was Winstanley, whether it was Stewart, whether it was Hyperbole, had phoned Trevoh Chalobah. Names were consistently being flipped and changed, and it was hard to tell who'd made the phone call. But Sid Celery makes a great point here that the PR department working really hard, so hard they've got only time to brief all the journos, but no time to formally announce it on their own website, read directly by all Chelsea fans. It's like they're trying to distance themselves from their own decision out of embarrassment. You know, and even today, just seeing the general tone out of Chelsea, that is one that is completely oblivious to the own errors they've made, the lack of humility, the tone-deaf nature of so many of these briefings, which paints just this perfect club that can't do anything wrong when there is a lot to be critical of across all levels of the club, but particularly if you want to look at the sporting directors who themselves only wanted a coach. They only wanted a coach because they wanted full control of the hierarchy, the strategy of the club. Well, when you take that stance, you then bear a lot of responsibility, which is why a lot of people are pointing towards you and not Enzo Maresca. And then we got sort of a glimpse last year, but Cy Phillips notably recalled this article about Axel Disasi from 2024, Feb 2024, so almost 12 months ago, that during the process of recruiting Axel Disasi, Laurence Stewart played Paul Winstanley a set of video clips and then said, if you want to know Axel's personality, this is what he's like. The clip showed Disasi pulling off tackles, headers, roaring with pleasure. In that paragraph, it kind of symbolises the shallowness to Chelsea's recruitment strategy. You know, I think the shallowness in a lot of ways is that it kind of feels like we're just signing players that the sporting directors have had previous connections to, whether they played for Brighton, whether they played for Man City's academy, whether they played for Monaco, not actually whether they are serious upgrades on our current first team, which, you know, is not based on a footballing decision. It's based on, you know, personality. It's based on connections, which I'm not oblivious. That's how the world works. But if you're not actually improving the first team, it doesn't matter, and you're going to be scrutinised for it. And I do just want to say that, yeah, Enzo Maresca, it's quite clear that he is not the big power player at Chelsea. We could have told you that in July. However, he sat there in August and gave this quote about Trevoh Chalobah when he was asked about it. And he said, the Trevoh Chalobah situation for me is quite clear. We have Axel there, we have Tosin there, we have Fofana, who is in these 2 weeks has worked very good and is finally back. We have some very good young profiles like Josh Ajimpom, who's doing fantastic. It's a sad decision, but we have to take the decision. So Maresca, yeah, he defended the decision. He'd only been in the job a few weeks and it was early in the season. So, you know, he wasn't going to come out and slam his own hierarchy, because I think even in recent weeks, as we've started to see him refuse to use his subs bench a bit, I wonder how that's going to lead towards his future. So it's not like Maresca's completely blameless in this, but undeniably, the revolt, I think, has gone in the right direction, and the scrutiny has gone in the right direction for the people who deserve responsibility. And it is Laurence Stewart, it is Paul Winstanley. These are the people, along with Debacle, that have created this situation. They did not need to treat Trevoh Chalobah in the way they did. He could have gone on that US tour. He could have even been involved in first team training like so many players are, and then he could have left. But the fact they decided to make negative headlines is on them. It's not on me, it's not on you, it's not on supporters who looked at it and have been critical. And as the team over the past month have started to deteriorate, and we've started to see the holes within this squad that I spoke about extensively, this has only led up to this moment here. It's great that Trevor's back. I love it because I love Trevor as a player, and it's wonderful to see as a character how resilient he is, how willing he is, and how everyone talks about, I want players who want to play for Chelsea. There's no better example in the current squad than Trevoh Chalobah. Trevoh Chalobah was well within his rights when he got that phone call from whoever it was, I don't care who it was, to stick two fingers up and say, no, I'm going to stay with Crystal Palace. But he wants to play for Chelsea. He continues to believe in himself and back himself that he can prove everyone wrong. He is like a phoenix rising from the ashes. He's done it so many times. We've written off Trevoh. We think like his Chelsea career is over. And the madness is, Matt Law reporting yesterday that they still haven't changed their minds. They still think that, well, he'll play for the rest of the season, but then we'll get rid of him in the summer. There is only one party that should be leaving Chelsea this summer, and it's not Trevoh Chalobah. It should be the sporting directors. They have had more than enough time and more than enough money to resolve Chelsea squad problems, and they have failed to do it. And I don't think it's unfair for Chelsea fans to look at the facts, to look at the evidence, to look at a growing list of failures. All of it combined makes a bad situation. And I think that there should be accountability. I'm not, Enzo Maresca's biggest fan. I think he has some flaws, but he is not the first one that should be leaving. I always think it's the people above them who've been here longer, who've made these decisions, who should be held accountable. Will that actually happen though? I'm not entirely sure, but it's great to see that people, in some ways, Chelsea fans rarely are united about something, but it says so much that Winstanley and Stewart and their handling of the Chalobah situation actually, at least for one day, united Chelsea social media together. Not sure it's going to last that long, but at least for now, we can be united on this, that the sporting directors are simply not good enough, and I think should be leaving the club this summer.